Tommy, deep in a work-related conversation, gets interrupted by his partner reminding him of their baby-making schedule. They negotiate the time to be spent on intercourse in hip elevation, revealing a sense of urgency and meticulous planning to conceive a baby. Later, Claire discusses helping reduce a client's sentence due to an error in jury selection. The jury forewoman, a rape victim herself, wasn't impartial, leading to misconduct accusations and a retrial. Responding to reporters, Claire expresses sympathy for the rape victim, who she feels the system has harmed again. Recognized for her defense work, Claire's co-workers congratulate her and tease about a potential partnership promotion. At a pool game, she dominates her game using her secret ambidextrous skill. However, their friendly competition is interrupted by news covering Claire's recent work. Drawing attention to her work, Claire finds herself in the spotlight. However, a night of celebration turns terrifying when intruders break into their home. Following the alarming incident, they meet a woman walking with her baby. An enormous joke ensues when a domestic dispute starts nearby, instigating a surprise visit from the FBI. In an unexpected turn, their home is raided and Tom is arrested by Special Agent Mulkins, accused of being someone named Ron Chapman. As Mrs. Kubik aggressively defends her husband, Mulkins reveals the charges are related to national security and will be processed in a military court, leaving them both in shock. In this scene, Claire's trying to deal with the shocking turn of events. Her sister Jackie calls her for money and ends up accompanying her to San Lazaro. There, Claire meets James Hernandez, who reveals he was in the same unit as Ron, adding another layer to the mystery of her husband's identity. Claire comes face to face with her incarcerated husband, Ron, who turns out to be James Hernandez. Hernandez insists he's innocent and confesses he didn't tell her because he feared losing her. Interrupting their intense confrontation, Hernandez's lawyer, Terrence Embry, appears. A stonewalled Claire confronts the military officer and insists on seeing the legal documents laying out Hernandez's charges. Upon learning her husband faces the death penalty if convicted, Claire decides to step in and defend Hernandez herself, despite him trying to shield her from the case. Meanwhile, they're reminded of past unfortunate incidents that took place in a town called Monte Azul. McGovern recounts to Claire a horrific incident from the past where a rebel leader, Danilo Chacon, caused chaos. He details how Hernandez, under orders from then Colonel Marks, carried out a massacre in a small village, Las Colinas, supposedly harboring Chacon. McGovern, witnessing the senseless slaughter, attempted to intervene, which ended up in him facing several charges. McGovern warns Claire to stay away from Major Hernandez, General Marks' top aide, whom he views as dangerous. As the details of the defense linking General Marks and Hernandez to the massacre become clear, there's significant concern about the risk to the firm's reputation. Claire passionately declares belief in her husband's innocence and insists they find a skillful Marine Corps lawyer to fight their complex case. She reassures Alex that she will resign if In her search for a specialized attorney, Claire meets with Charlie Grimes, an ex-JAG Corps lawyer with a colorful past, at his office. While discussing her need, Claire's conversation is interrupted by Lola, a woman who seems to be a frequent troublemaker. When asked about Charlie's capabilities, Lola confirms that he is indeed an adept lawyer. Following her conversation with Lola, Claire reluctantly introduces Charlie to her sister Jackie, who has recently been evicted. When Charlie mentions his concern about staring at Jackie, Claire reassures him, divulging Jackie's new job venture as a psychic hotline operator. Charlie awkwardly plays off the revelation and the pair moves on with their legal discussions regarding the pretrial security clearance. Charlie Grimes, known for his past alcoholism, joins Claire's legal team for the impending pretrial hearing. He cautions them against fighting the system where Colonel Farrell, nearing retirement, will preside over their case. Despite Claire's motions to dismiss the charges due to insufficient evidence, Charlie pessimistically indicates the likelihood of their motion being denied. However, he emphasizes playing by the rules rather than trying to fight the system. Ensuring, as the pretrial hearing commences, Sergeant Chapman pleads not guilty. Major Waldron questions the appropriateness of Claire, his spouse, representing him, but Farrell allows it. Despite Claire's objection for more time to prepare the defense, Farrell schedules the opening statements a week hence. As the hearing continues, Claire insists on a public trial despite military concerns about national security. Farrell warns her about overstepping her civilian boundaries, after which Claire and her co-counsel strategize. They ponder over the mysterious absence of 5 eyewitnesses from the prosecution's list, discovering they're dead. Claire and her team dive deeper into the case, noticing the suspicious deaths of several witnesses. Embry, a member of her team, suggests focusing on the possibility that Hernandez acted alone, fearing no one would believe Brigadier General Mark's involvement. Despite contradicting opinions, Claire acknowledges that focusing on Hernandez may indeed be their best strategy. Claire and Kubik receive a call from Major Waldron offering a deal for voluntary manslaughter with a 5-year sentence and a non-disclosure agreement. Claire supports the deal, but Kubik insists he won't serve time for something he didn't do. Seeing no agreement reached, Major Waldron expresses desire to put the case behind them for the sake of everyone involved. After Claire informs Kubik about her request for him to serve 5 years in prison, they get into a heated argument. After he storms out of the room, Hernandez appears and starts provoking them for not accepting the deal. In response, Kubik pledges to take a polygraph test even though it isn't admissible in court, promising he is doing it for the two of them. Following their argument, Hernandez provokes Kubik, causing another altercation. Afterward, Kubik undergoes a polygraph test and passes it, confirming his truthfulness about not participating in any killings. Meanwhile, in court, Lapierre, a special agent, testifies, indicating there are 7 eyewitnesses identifying Chapman, Kubik's real name, as the shooter in the alleged massacre. The defense lawyer continues his questioning of the colonel, accusing him of a biased investigation. The lawyer also raises doubts about the reliability and fate of the witnesses. After this intense cross-examination, the scene shifts to a phone conversation between Claire and Charlie, discussing a murdered witness from Tom's unit. In the scene, Claire comes to know about a witness's wife accusing the military of her husband's murder. Meanwhile, Charlie unexpectedly visits Claire, seemingly to discuss a case, but it leads to an argument. Following this incident, a woman arrives asking for directions and Mrs. Kubik talks about her work. Towards the end, an unknown person accuses another one of being a weirdo, indicating potential tension. Following the day's disruptions, a stranger arrives to confess to Mrs. Kubik that he trains people to cheat lie detector tests, leaving her surprised. As he leaves, he hints that she might know why he's really there. When Tom comes home, Mrs. Kubik confronts him about this revelation, leading to an intense argument. In his frustration, Tom sarcastically confesses to every accusation against him, commenting on the absurd. Tom and Claire's argument continues to escalate, leading Tom to question the security of their home. Meanwhile, Charlie Grimes reappears, seemingly beaten up and blaming the Secretive Club. Their associates, Rennie and Lucy, appear confused and ask for clarification on the current heated events. Claire is taken aback by the chaotic circumstances of the unfolding situation. The crisis deepens as everyone confronts each other about the polygraph test, tarot cards, and the mysterious club. Amidst the chaos, Charlie mentions needing to track down a recently paroled man. Meanwhile, the Major continues recounting chilling details of Chapman's disturbing actions during the war. During Chapman's trial, the defense lawyer questions the Major's past statement where he praised Chapman's reliability and experience, implicitly suggesting a potential cover-up. They challenge the credibility of 7 witnesses whose stories align too perfectly and insinuate that the Major may lie given his training to beat polygraphs in carrying out secret operations. After cross-examining the Major, an unexpected parcel arrives for Charles. The package sender's name triggers a heated argument between Charles and Grace, revealing Grace got a call from the base. The argument escalates physically, culminating in an altercation. Later, released on parole, Charles doubts why he's summoned to testify, questioning the real happenings on the night of the massacre in El Salvador. Charles shares about his court testimony at a gathering. His statement is already manipulated in the Criminal Investigations Division, CD, portraying him as a witness to the shooting. Despite his initial denial, he ultimately concedes, fitting himself into the narrative being constructed around the supposed shooting incident. Charlie comes home drunk and frightened, thinking someone was watching their house. Claire discovers a recorder in his possession with proof that Abbott, who testified in court, was nowhere near the shooting scene. Feeling guilty, Charlie admits he never wanted to break his sobriety. Claire decides to make some coffee, indicating she's ready to settle in for a long discussion and support Charlie. Charlie, who has started drinking again, suggests a toast. However, Claire reveals that she's trying to get pregnant. The court scene unfolds with the disappearance of witness Troy Abbott causing a stir. A tape surfaces that contradicts Abbott's statement protecting the client. However, without Abbott's presence, the tape's authenticity is questioned. Claire and the defense counsel are outraged as a crucial tape that exonerates Ron Chapman is deemed inadmissible by the judge. Despite Tom's warnings, Claire is determined to fight. Upon discovering a bug, the team can't prove who's responsible but decides to hear from the Brigadier General as the next step. Taking Tom's advice, Claire bravely confronts General Marks about the illegal order he gave that led to disaster at Las Colinas. Unswayed, General Marks denies any involvement and dismisses her. Frustrated, Claire vents at her anger alone later. Having failed to obtain information about the Las Colinas incident directly, Claire resorts to a public plea on live television, urging anyone with knowledge about the situation to help. Claire's public advocacy for her husband upsets her law firm boss, Alex, leading her to decide to resign. In a car with an unnamed man, Claire demands to know the truth about the Las Colinas incident. The man reveals he recognizes her husband from a photograph as the one who killed rebel leader Danilo Chacon. He also discloses a cover-up about the death of 3 American students, which was blamed on the rebels to justify looking for Chacon, who was already dead. Claire confronts her supposed partner, Charlie, about not communicating his actions. She reveals her guilt-removing discovery about an unnamed man who saw the whole Las Colinas incident unfold, confirming Tom's innocence. Charlie promises to sober up just before they discover an oil leak. The scene ends with the woman dreaming about losing a baby. In this scene, Claire grieves over losing her baby and contemplates the reason behind such a devastating event. Charlie tries to lift her spirits, stating that they were probably spared for a reason and they need to treat this as a new beginning. Unnamed man comes to visit Claire while they are discussing, wishing her a Merry Christmas. Claire receives an apology from a lieutenant for their earlier mistakes regarding her situation. They discuss how James Hernandez's injury records could provide clues about the cafe bombing. Claire, suspecting James and General Marks might be involved, asks Agent Mullins to help investigate this angle. Mullins remains reluctant, urging Claire to find out who's actually responsible for the investigation. Mac implicates the military in the deaths of witnesses from Chapman's unit and reveals that soldier James Hernandez sustained an injury. Meanwhile, Claire confronts General Marks about sending Detachment 27 to Las Colinas. Marks denies any conspiracy but fails to clarify James Hernandez's situation. After implicating General Marks in the bombing at Monte Azul, Mac uses Hernandez's hospital records as evidence. The document proves Hernandez suffered a wound before Las Colinas and supports his allegation that General Marks' operation was a decoy. Mac warns the challenging general to drop charges, threatening to go public with the classified information. The scene ends with a sudden crisis. Someone named Jackie seems to be in trouble. After an intense turn of events, Major Waldron files a motion to disqualify Claire from the case because she spoke to the press, raising the stakes for the next court session. However, shockingly, the Department of Defense dismisses the charges against Sergeant Chapman due to national security reasons, allowing him to walk free. As the situation settles, characters decide to leave town and head to Marin. They express their heartfelt thanks and goodbyes to Embry and Jackie before discussing the peculiar timing and circumstances of Paul's murder. They suspect a connection to the military, based on Paul's old Marine Corps friend, and a potential recognition gesture. Claire and Marks discuss the day's events, with Marks expressing shame for not being able to protect Claire. Charlie calls, apologizing for not being there for Claire, and hints at information he might have that Claire is unaware of. Claire is reluctant to have this conversation, but the tension leaves them wondering if Marks and Hernandez will cause trouble. Charlie reveals to Claire that her husband Tom was at the locations of witness murders on the exact dates they occurred. Suggesting Tom matches the witness description of using both hands, Charlie hints at the possibility of Tom being the murderer. Startled by this revelation, Claire is further troubled when Tom unexpectedly returns home, leaving her to wonder about his innocence. Claire confronts Tom over the phone call she had with Charlie. Tom reveals he did kill those people as he was trained to do so, believing they were terrorists. He also confesses to killing Stenstrom and Allen as they recognized him. In a heated confrontation, Tom hurts Claire physically when she tries to resist him. After her violent face-off with Tom, a still-shaken Claire visits Charlie at his office. Charlie, unaware of the turmoil in Claire's life, shares his thoughts about never leaving San Lazaro. Claire playfully suggests changes in office decor with the inclusion of her maiden name Grimaldi, contrasting the dark undertone of her life. In this scene, Claire makes playful suggestions to revamp Charlie's office, which she describes as Skid Row chic. Meanwhile, there's a soulful song playing in the background that echoes the narrative with its lyrics about finding self-love before loving others. While a soulful track plays in the background, embodying the movie's narrative about self-love and relationships, Claire playfully teases Charlie about the rundown state of his office, referring to it as Skid Row chic.